Please have your seats. Thank you all so much. Whilst we waited for the ceremony to start upstairs, I think it was Dean Chin who asked me, how many honorary doctorates have you gotten? And I said, it really doesn't matter because every new one is special and every new one comes with a new burden to keep up the good work. And that's a lot of pressure. I'm here with my daughter, Leymah, and she says to me, when we come out and we see people honor you, then I forget that you are that crazy woman who jumped out of her car in the streets of Monrovia to chase down a mother who beat her 3-year-old. Someone you don't know at all, and when you can't catch her, you pick a stool and throw it after her because you just need to do something. And then you try to hold the child who doesn't know you, and the child starts to scream because all he knows is that you just chase his mother down the street. President Borwell, Provost Scott, Dean Chin, distinguished faculty, student body, staff, Board of Trustees, American University, graduating class, one and all. This is another day that the Lord has made in my life, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. I'm grateful and I'm humbled for this honor that you all have bestowed on me today. Growing up, my ultimate goal in life was to become a pediatrician. I'm a long way from that. My many doctor visits as a child made me decide that this is what I wanted to do with my life. At 17, fresh out of high school, we experienced one of the worst civil wars recorded in the history of Africa. Watching so many senseless killings and carnage, I decided I was not going to waste my time going to medical school when a tiny bullet could undo years of studies. I had no ambition. I had no clue, like many young children living in conflict contexts, where my life was headed. Fate would bring me to working with child soldiers as criteria for entering social work school. This engagement would lead me on several different journeys of building peace. The road to building peace have been exciting for me, heart-wrenching sometimes, exhausting, depressing, funny, but most importantly, it's been worth every moment of my life. Kindly stay with me as I briefly speak with you on the theme, Building Peace in a War-Making World. In 1998, as part of my requirement to go back to get a degree as a social worker, I had to be practicing social work. And so I volunteered at the Lutheran Church Trauma Healing for Reconciliation program. And the job that they gave to me was to design programs and work with ex-child soldiers who had different forms of disability. God had a sense of humor. That was the group that I hated the most as a result of the Liberian Civil War. I went to visit them on the first day, and when I entered the room, it was pitch black. I could barely see, maybe 20 young men, the stench of the room, different forms of disability. And they said, what you came to do here? Raw Liberian English. I said, I came to work with you all. They abused me for 1 hour, and I stood there and took it, like verbal abuses. The next day I came back, they abused me for 59 minutes. The following day, 58. By the 5th day, they realized I wasn't going anywhere. So they finally decided, let's just listen to this crazy woman. We eventually came to the place where we understood each other. I got to understand that a lot of them joined the conflict because they had no choice. For example, Sam Brown, someone I will eventually get to love as a brother, was 8 years old when his parents ran away from the village and left him behind. He stayed in that village trying to fend for himself until the warring faction came in. He had to carry things for them on his head. By the time he was 9, they taught him how to operate an AK-47, and by 10 years old, he was a full-fledged fighter in their revolution. When I met him at 16, his right arm was amputated, and this was someone that I hated. As I worked with Sam, I got to understand his addiction to drug, alcohol, and any other substance that would make him forget his physical disability. He got to understand me and my drive for peace. And as I go along, I'm going to ask you, or usually graduates are so anxious to go out and party or eat or do the cookout, they rarely remember anything the speaker says. So I'm going to give you all 5 lessons or 6 lessons from building peace in a war-making world. And the first lesson that I learned engaging with Sam, Joseph Colley, and all of the ex-child soldiers: be persistent, be consistent, and committed to your calling. You might just transform your worst skeptic. And in my case, the child soldiers did not think that I could do anything with them. A few months ago, starting a program at Columbia University, I walked in and saw a nameplate on one of the doors. I went in that office, and I saw the guy who used to coordinate the child soldiers, master's degree, working in the Earth Institute, a former child soldier. Whilst my understanding and my feeling towards the child soldier changed as we engaged, I would realize that there were things that they had done in their lives as someone striving to build peace and to work with them that I could not resolve, or there are certain things that they did in their lives that I could not answer for. So one of the days we went into a village and I met this woman. She said, "Mother of Peace." They used to call me our mom, Mother of Peace, whatever name. "Sit down, I have a problem I need for you to resolve." So I sat next to her and she said, "During the war, my son got killed. I know the killer of my son, my daughter, went off to be refugee in some other country. A few months ago, I got a letter from my daughter. She's married happily to a pastor, and they have 3 kids. I asked her to send me pictures, and she sent the pictures later on. I recognized her husband as the killer of my son. They're moving back home. They're supposed to be staying with me. What should I do?" The second lesson, it's okay to say you don't know. Yes, you got a fancy degree from American University, School of International Service. You want to go out, build peace in a war-making world. But it's just okay sometimes to say, "I don't have an answer for this particular thing." I didn't have an answer for her. All I had to offer her was empathy, compassion, and to sit and cry along with her. As I've done this work from place to place, there's another lesson that I've learned. Building peace in a war-making world. People will spend billions on war and peanuts on peace. If you came into this field to look for cash, you're in the wrong seat. Because even as a Nobel laureate, the hustle is still on. You still have to write proposals and raise money, and sometimes even your salary will have to go into the work that you're doing. But empathy, partnership, and all of the different things are the things that get you to where you need to get to. As you go on this journey of building peace in a war-making world, understand that it's a journey of partnership and accompanying a group of people. It's never I have a fancy degree from AU and I'm going to save the world. In my work and working with the women, I've come to learn a lot of things as I go into communities. That one context of conflict is completely different from another context of conflict. I went to the Congo, and as we work and talk, I went with a whole delegation, and I realized that everybody came with a different set of expertise trying to save the Congo. Everybody came with answers of why the women acted the way they acted and why the community responded to them the way the community responded to them. I asked the women, can you tell me on a list of priority the top 10 things that are the main problems of the women of Congo? And if you've actually been to the School of International Service, the first thing you learn in North American literature about the Congo is that Congo is the rape capital of the world. And these women said to me, economic empowerment. Economic empowerment when everyone else believes that your problem in DR Congo is rape and sexual abuse, and the answer was no, this is not our problem. If we've had money, we wouldn't stay in this. The second issue was implementation of all of the laws and the policies that they had on the book. I learned a serious lesson from that you never go into a context and try to imagine that this is what the people need. A few years ago, I was in Boston at one famous university where it was a gathering of university students. And a group came to me and said, we've raised thousands of dollars, Ms. Gbowee, and we want to go into one African country, they call their name, and work with the women because they are abused. I say, wow. Abused, yes. How do you know it? Well, we went there and we saw them abused, and it was problematic for us. Wow. And so what do you intend to do? Well, we're going to make them aware that they're being abused. Wow. And then when you make them aware that they're being abused, what are you going to do? We're going to solve the problem for them. Wow. Just wow. When you're building peace in a war-making world, your duty is not to go and try to change people. Your duty is to walk alongside them. You can be from DC and you're working in New York. Don't even go with the mindset that I'm from North America. You could just miss the mark. It's a journey of partnership. You in the back, those with the problems in front. I know we all want to go and change the world. We all want to go and change things. I have some days I look at some of the students when I do guest lecturing at different universities in this country, and they bring some of their theory of change. I'm like, Jesus, where did they come from? If someone tell you that I'm going to educate girls in Africa by interacting with them on social media at every day, and by that time they will get inspired to go to school, are you kidding me? Where is she going to get money from to get on the internet or to do stuff? So as you try to do good in this world, in the world of building peace, in a war-making world, it is important for you to follow after those you're going to help. One story that I like to tell about Liberia, a group went to this village and saw these women walk 30 minutes for water and 30 minutes back. And they kept saying, oh my God, these women are suffering. So they put a hand pump in the middle of the community. 6 months later, another group went back to say, we're going to investigate how this peace that we've built in this community has helped, how the water is helping the women in the community. They got there, yes, they were using the pump effectively, but they found another social problem. Half of the women were alcoholics. And then they started to investigate. And these women said, when we walk to the village, 30 minutes is where we exhale. When we're coming back, is where we found solution for our problems. You put a hand pump in the middle of the community, nowhere for us to sit to talk about our problems. Alcohol is our best option. Journey alongside people. On a journey to building peace in a war-making world, I've come to understand that you can never give power, you can never empower if you're unwilling to give up your power. So empowerment is giving up some of your power so that others may step into the limelight and be the best that they can be. It's going into communities and helping people to do stuff that they need to do. When I was in the Congo talking to 100 women who had been sexually assaulted, every one of those women who told their story told stories of wanting to kill themselves, but then other women came Other women came and lifted them up and decided this is the way to go, and they had the zeal to live. Our duty in a world where everything is upside down is to get to the place where we step in the back and try to give some of our powers to other people. I would never be standing on this stage as a Nobel laureate if someone called a Twitter Cooper when we started protesting in Liberia did not step in the background so that I could do what she knew that I could do. I've gone to many places and I've mentored many young people. Creating spaces and opportunities for them to be the best that they can be is something that we all need to do. I know a lot of you are aspiring to work with the UN, work with the State Department, work with every other big-time job and make big impact. Trust me, the most rewarding ones will be the ones that you will do in the community, that you will look back 10, 15 years later and someone will say to you, you know what? I am because of what you did to me or what you did for me. So as we go out to build peace in a war-making world, and when I talk about peace, I'm not just talking about the absence of war, the absence of war. I'm talking about human security concern, looking at everyone as equal regardless of their race, sex, or sexual orientation. I'm talking about not dealing with people on the basis of how they pray or how they speak. Sometimes I wish I could wear my Nobel medal on my neck as I travel from place to place. Because I am dressed as an African and I will always do that proudly. Sometimes you get to some station and people will just arrest you. I remember being in Germany a few months back and they just look at my passport and this is like immediately after Paris. So you know if you have two men with AK-47 escorting a black person, everyone who passed by you look at you and say, poor terrorist, you've gotten caught. And that's exactly how I felt as these men were escorting me into a room. I'm wondering to myself, what did I do? And then we walk into the room and they take my passport and look at it and look at it and look at it. And next thing they say, you can go. Just like that? Yeah, there's no problem. No, sir. Two men escorted me here. I don't know my way. Can they escort me back to where they took me from? Because you have to fulfill the narrative. I don't want it to be halfway. You went with two soldiers. How are you going by yourself? So take me back to the plane. So peace building in this world that we're talking about is being able to stand up to hypocritical structures. Those structures that will say this is one thing and the structure that will be doing another thing. And we call it speaking from the corners of your mouth. Peace building in a war-making world is not just standing and protesting or sitting behind your computers and writing under different names. It's actually being able to stand up and speak truth to power. Peace building in a war-making world is understanding that racism is racism. It has no other definition. And many of you, as you go out as leaders in the world, some of you will have some of the biggest jobs on earth. Some of you will sit as Homeland Security, bringing people in. Think for a moment, if you walk into a country your first time and someone profile you in a way that is derogatory, how would you feel? We can do all of this, we can study everything that we study, but until we decide to turn our upside down world upright, we've missed the mark. Many times I come to the US, I tell people, and I'm in DC and I'm saying this, DC airport is one of the worst that I hate to come to. I always get called into the small room. And you know that small room, right? If you dress like me or you're from other place, you know that small room. But you go in there and sometimes they're not nice at all. And some of you will sit in these spaces and places, humanize people, make them to feel like humans when they come into your country. Building peace in a war-making world is the one that look at every young girl, boy, or every little girl or boy and say you can be the best that there is for you to be. The fifth lesson that I've learned in this process is that peace building in a war-making world is a process and not an event. You can never go out there and say, we're going to kill it this once. It's small steps, small victories. When you listen to the news today, and you read the newspaper, and you think about the statistics of things happening, I've been telling people I'm officially crazy, but I'm waiting for a SAC ward to give me my certificate of insanity. Because I'm the only person that goes on these websites that say list of terror incidents in the world. Do you all go there to research? List of terror incidents. There's another one called Gun Archive. And as of last weekend, there were 19,000 shooting incidents in the US and over 5,000 deaths. There's another one that is called Wars of the World. It gives you by country how many countries are in wars and how many insurgent groups. So I go there sometimes to read and to get acquainted with what is happening in other parts of the world. For you in America, go to Gun Archive. If you go to Gun Archive today and you see the statistics, you check tomorrow, it's higher than today. If you see the number of deaths today, it will be higher tomorrow. It's a process. We all need to understand that we're working on a process. It's not just one big celebration, one big victory. Like the two leaders from North and South Korea walking the DMZ, and everyone is thinking that, okay, people need to start receiving Nobel Prize. I just said it. It is a process that started with women. It may humor a lot of you or interest you to know that in 2015, 30 of us activists spent 5 days in Pyongyang, 5 days in North Korea. What the hell we were looking for, we don't know. But all we know, we were doing people-to-people diplomacy. The death threats we received by emails. We left from there, and the North and South Korean women continued their advocacy in DC, this other place, that other place. This process that we're seeing is not a one-man show. It's something that has taken an entire generation of people working and advocating for. And this is the point that I want to leave with you. It is a process. It's never an event. Building peace in a war-making world will take a lot. Dear graduates, celebrate small victories. As you do celebrate, let down your hair if you have some. When we were in North Korea, one of the days it got so tense and stressful, I stuck my iPad to someone's sound box, the small ones that everyone carry, Bluetooth or whatever, and we started striking some African beats on the bus. And I got up and started dancing. And the whole bus started dancing. Our driver turned around and got so, because the bus was parked as we were dancing, he got so engrossed in watching us dance, the security had to slap his head to remind him that it would soon be time to drive. But by virtue of the fact that we were there, we were talking to young women. They were telling us, my host, the girl who they had assigned to me, was telling me issues of marriage and the abuses that was so prevalent in their communities. And everyone interacted one way or the other. Celebrate small victories as you build peace in a world-making world. Challenge structures. Speak more truth to power. Denounce violence. But most importantly, take care of yourself. I'm the worst person to be giving you that advice, given that I get on a flight on Monday, and come back on Thursday and fly out again on Friday. But it's important for us to be the whole person if we want to keep doing what we are doing. The world is depending on you. The world is listening out for each and every one of you to chip at one of those problems. Don't give up. It may not seem like it's working, but trust me, as you step out there and see small things happening, you will understand that you can make impact. I'll end with a story because I like to tell stories that will give you hope. I moved to New York in all of my Africanness, the nosiness, the sassiness, and everything. And as I was walking one day, I saw 3 black boys go into a nail salon. It got very interesting for me. So I followed them. My meeting was left. They were going right. I followed them right. They went into this nail salon and came out with a pair of flip-flops. And when they came out with those flip-flops, I recognized, what are these boys doing with flip-flops? So I'm even more curious. So they start going further. Instead of going my meeting, I'm going further with them. I followed them, and what I saw is what I call building peace in a war-making world. This is America. This is the time Black Lives Matter is up there. Me too, time's out. And every other hashtag is hashing. These boys had seen an old white man trying to get from point A to point B, and his flip-flops were broken. 3 black boys, 1 white man. I know Hispanic when I see it. I've been here long enough. I know mixed when I see it. I've been here long enough. White. They walk over to him, handed him the slippers, and I could not contain my excitement, so I ran to them and hugged all 3 of them. And every one of them went, whoa. I said to them, thank you. Tell your mothers that she's brought up very good young men. As you go out, live with integrity, embrace strangers, refuse to walk on tiptoes, walk loudly, leaving impact on our world. Building peace in a war-making world is not difficult. It takes heart. I thank you.